Hi dears, welcome back to another session of our class after a while. After your exam and all, we are meeting again. Hope you have done well with your exam. Right. Okay. So getting back to our class, refreshing the previous knowledge, we discussed different Mendel laws, right? Law of dominance, law of segregation, and law of independent assortment, and we discussed monohybrid crows and dihybrid crows too. Okay. So today we are going to deal with the next session, as you have read from the board. It is chromosomal theory of inheritance. So today we are going to deal with chromosomal theory of inheritance. Okay. So whenever you are hearing about this, first of all, before going into the detailed version of chromosomal theory, let's consider the work of Mendel. Mendel does his work in the early 1865 to be accurate, right? But his works were remained unrecognized till 1900. Till 1900, Mendel's work remained unrecognized for various reasons. Firstly, he explained, before going to this, at that time in the 18th century and all, there were not much medias and all. So that affected Mendel's work, Mendel's postulates and all badly itself. He couldn't publish his work in a vast way. He could not do it in a publicized way. So his work had some limitations since it was not publicized. That was one reason since it was unrecognized till 1900. Another one is Mendel put forward the term factors. What was the term factors known as? Yes, it is known as the genes. Correct. So you know that genes are exist in pairs, and that is the alleles, and they are responsible for the controlling of the trait. And they are expressed, and at the time of division they segregate and form. They do not blend. They independently, law of independent assortment, especially in dihybrid crows we discussed, isn't it? They are approaching to the offspring independently. They are segregating independently. There is no blend except in incomplete dominance. That is apart. Okay. So all these things, or all these theories or facts which was put forward by Mendel was not acceptable or was not actually digested to Mendel's contemporaries. Again, that coins another point for being his work being unrecognized. Okay, and the third one is that application of mathematics. You came to know that genetics, we are moving into another field of biology rather than till we were discussing another type. But when we entered to the field of genetics, we came to know that we are applying mathematics to biology. Again, this is also not widely acceptable by many of the people at that time of Mendel. Okay, so due to these reasons, due to these what we can say ego clash by the contemporaries and all, altogether we could say that his work didn't get the recognition what he intends. Okay, so till 1900. By 1900, three scientists, De Vries, Correns and Schermark, that they are claimed in the textbook itself. You could have a glance from the textbook. They rediscovered Mendel's postulates. Okay, they started to rediscover Mendel's postulate. And also one more thing, by the 19th century, by the beginning of 1900 and all, the field of microscopy also began to expand. Electron microscope and all came to introduction. That and all paved the way for the rediscovery of Mendel. Okay, and due to the advent or due to the use of microscope, they are able to see the cell division. Okay, what is the how during the cell division, what are the things going on, and that paved or that led to the way to see the nucleus. Okay, due to the advent of electron microscopy, they could see the cell division. So while examining the cell division, they could clearly see the nucleus. So where does the chromosomes are seen? Inside the nucleus, isn't it? Inside the nucleus, chromosomes are present. So while observing the nucleus clearly, they were able to see the chromosomes also. Okay, so that was the contribution of that three scientists. Again, in 1902, dears, you have to keep in mind all these years. This is a very important chapter, topic, very what we say, very sensitive also. You have to sit seriously and have a glance over this. Okay. Many questions will be asked, frequently asked. This is a guaranteed topic for your NEET exam also. Okay, so be careful. Several questions will be asked. So for MCQs and all, these years and all can be on. So you have to keep in mind the years also. Who rediscovered at which year and all. Okay, so getting back to the topic again, in 1902, again two scientists, Sutton and Boveri, 1902. Sutton and Theodore Boveri. They were the person who were responsible to put forward the chromosomal theory of inheritance. We could see that how they came to this theory, chromosomal theory. So we discussed that by the advent of the microscopy, the scientists were able to see the cell division and they could markedly see the role of chromosome. But while examining this, they could see that, they noted that the behavior of chromosome is completely same, or behavior of chromosomal movement during cellular division and all, or during meiosis, is completely parallel to the movement or to the action or to the behavior of genes. Clear? Movement of chromosome is parallel to the behavior of genes. Clear? So they are running parallelly. What is the chromosome doing? That will be the same done by the gene. So they are moving parallelly. Clear? They are moving parallelly. So you know that where is the genes present? Genes are present in the locus of the chromosome. You know that homologous chromosomes. So whatever is the chromosome, how the chromosome are moving, along with the chromosome, genes also will be moving. Okay, so that was the first thing noted by Sutton and Boveri. Okay, and they used the concept of movement of chromosome. They used the concept of movement of chromosome to explain the Mendel's law again. So along with the Mendel's law, along with the movement of chromosome during the cell division and all, they started to re-explain or rediscover Mendel's postulates. Clear? Okay. So, in your textbook, figure 5.8 is there. In that figure 5.8, it is given meiotic division during the germ cell formation. So, we can have a glance over that. So, getting back to the figures. Okay. So, you have studied what is mitosis, what is meiosis in +1. Right. Mitosis, simply we can say they are the equational division, and meiosis, it is the reductional division. Meiosis 1 is the reductional division. Meiosis 2 is the same as that of mitosis, that is equational division. So I am not going to that in detail. G phase is there, S phase is there, many things we had studied, isn't it? G1 phase, G2 phase, S phase, prophase, metaphase, metaphase, telophase, anaphase, all various phases also we had studied, isn't it? So I am not going to that area. So recollect all these things. Okay, all those things you have studied in your 11th standard. Okay, so getting back, so we were discussing about chromosomal theory. So we discussed that the movement of the chromosome is parallel to the behavior of genes. Okay, so we can see that here we discussed that genes are present in the homologous chromosomes itself. Okay, so in the G1 phase we could see that chromosome which is not closed over, nothing is there, just G1 phase. G2 phase, here we can see the changes, and this had entered into meiosis 1, and here we are explaining only about anaphase. Prophase is over, metaphase is over. Now in anaphase, what is the typical thing is happening? The chromatids will move towards the pole. I hope you can see the red marking over there. The chromatids from the chromosome the sister chromatids will be pulled apart towards the pole, and meanwhile the cell will start to divide, isn't it? And the division is completed in the telophase. Okay, so in the anaphase the chromatids will move towards the pole. Okay, chromatids will move towards the pole, and the cell will start to divide, and in telophase that would be completed. So each cell will receive one chromatid. Each cell will be having 2 chromatids out of this 4. So that will be the complete end portion of meiosis 1. So the typical only the highlighted portion is given in your textbook. So in meiosis 1, I am repeating it again. It will be moving towards the pole. Again, we are going to see the meiosis 1. In meiosis 2, prophase 2 is happening. Then we are looking for the metaphase 2. The metaphase 2, what is being happening? Where is the chromatids are arranged? Chromatids are arranged in the equator, in the center. Okay, the stage after the metaphase is anaphase. Okay, so in metaphase, all these chromatids will be arranged at the equator. Okay, so that is over. And after metaphase, the telophase 2 will happen, which results in the chromatids will move towards the pole, and the cell will start to divide. And in telophase, the complete division will happen. In the telophase, complete division of the cell will happen. After the metaphase 2, anaphase 2 will happen, and then this telophase will be continuing. Okay. Okay, so we will be getting the complete cell division after the telophase 2. That means 2 cells with 4 sister chromatids are here in each. So that will be, each cell will divide into 2. Each cell will divide into 2. So total we will be getting 4 cells with 2 sister chromatids. Okay, clear? So this you have to study by looking the picture that is being given in the textbook. Meanwhile, I will give some postulates of chromosomal theory of inheritance. It states pairing and separation of a pair of chromosome lead to segregation of a gene it carries. By looking this, you can identify this. I'll repeat. It states pairing and separation of a pair of a chromosome leads to segregation of a gene it carries. Clear? Okay. Chromosomes are the vehicles of heredity, that you know, and it contains the information. Okay. So two identical chromosomes with similar genes forms the homologous pair. Homologous pair separate during gamete formation. Segregation happens completely independently. So each cell is getting independent genes. Segregation is happening completely independently. Clear? Okay. Along with this, we are moving to another topic, that is linkage and recombination. So, we can discuss that also, linkage and recombination. Here we studied the chromosomal behavior. The movement of the chromosome is completely as same as that of the gene, and the gene is segregating independently. As point wise, we could say like that way. Okay. So we can see how we can define linkage. Linkage and recombination. So very important topic again. Okay, any questions you can expect from this. So linkage is nothing but the phenomenon of the genes to stay together. Phenomenon of the genes to stay together during inheritance or from passing from one generation to next generation. Okay, so through generations, these linked genes will pass as a single unit without any change. Without any change, they are being passed from one generation to the next generation. There will be no variation, no crossing over. That will be passed from the previous generation as same to the next generation also. Clear? That is known as linkage. Okay. So linkage was explained by Morgan while studying the Drosophila melanogaster. He did his studies in Drosophila melanogaster. Actually, this melanogaster, Drosophila melanogaster, is easy to culture in the lab condition while we are keeping with the help of synthetic medium, and also while keeping a rotten tomato or rotten fruit and all. Many Drosophila can be attracted by that fruit, so it is easily available. So due to this easy availability, Morgan had conducted all his studies based on this linkage and recombination in Drosophila melanogaster. Okay, and this physical association, he termed this physical association as linkage. Okay, linkage. So in your textbook, it is being given very widely. I will explain it. Okay. So in the case, yellow-bodied, the case was considered yellow-bodied and white-colored eyes. That is the dominant type. That is being crossed with the wild type brown-bodied with red eyes. Brown-bodied with red eyes. That cross was done by Morgan with the help of the Drosophila melanogaster, which is being cultivated in the synthetic medium of in his lab. Okay. So he collected an yellow-bodied, white-eyed form with brown-bodied, red-eyed form, and he tried to cross that. And in two genes, what we expect in this normally we can say that, okay, so in your textbook it is being given that, I just simply wrote, okay, you don't have to write all these things. So two genes divide and segregate in the F2 generation, okay, but in the F2 generation, this is a dihybrid cross. So in the F2 generation, we are expecting a ratio of 9:3:3:3:1. This is the phenotypic ratio, dihybrid phenotypic ratio. But in this case, this ratio is not being ensured. The Morgan find out a significant deviation from this ratio, and he could get more recombinants. Okay, sorry, he could not get more variants. He couldn't get. He could identify only parental type rather than getting more non-parental type. Okay, so more or less he found that genes on the same chromosomes and the proportion of the parental gene is higher. Proportion of the parental gene is higher. Parental gene is higher than that of the non-parental gene. What do you mean by that? Yes, there is no much variety happened. The same, what does the parent carry, that is being expressed in the F2 generation also. In the previous dihybrid crosses and all, we could see that various things are there around. When we considered the dihybrid crosses with round yellow with wrinkled green, variety of variants we are ensuring this ratio was occurred. But in the case of this in this Drosophila, this had happened. That led to the way of finding out the term linkage. A strong physical association was there which did not ensure much variation, much recombination. Okay, no crossing over happened. If linkage is high, recombination will be low. If the genes are tightly linked, there will be no much recombination. If there is no much linkage, then there will be high rate of variation or high rate of recombination. Okay, so for your extra clarification, one more thing I will tell. Okay. Suppose this is a chromosome. Okay, and if two genes are present here on the same locus, okay, so A, B are the two genes, and you can see that A and B are very close. Since the two genes are very close, their linkage will be very high. Since the distance is too low, distance between two genes are low, then the linkage will be high. Understand? The linkage will be very high. Suppose this is another chromosome. This is another chromosome. If A is present here and the B is present here, so the distance is small. Distance small means linkage is low. If the linkage is low, then the chance of crossing over will be high, which results in the variations. Clear? Distance is very low, linkage will be high, recombination will be low. Recombination or crossing over will be low if the linkage is high. There will be no variation. If the linkage is very low, then the recombination will be high, which results in the variation. Clear? Is that clear? So, the position and the distance determines the linkage and the variation. Okay? So, with this, I am winding today's class. Meanwhile, I am giving you one assignment. Not assignment. You just go through figure 5.11. Crosses A and cross B. See, first one is the parental one. Female and male are being given. And in the F1 generation, you could see that correct cross is being happening. Isn't it? That blue one is being crossed and it is reached in the complete crossing over happened. But when you take care the F2 generation, parental type is shown as 98.7. You could see that small y and small w in the parental generation, they are situated very closely. Very closely means linkage will be high. That's why they are showing the parental gene very much high in the F2 generation. You could see the recombinant is only 1.3. Since the linkage will be high, recombination will be low. Okay. Again, in the cross B, you could see that small letter W and small letter M are placed distantly. They are not so close. That ensure the less linkage, more recombinant crossing over there, and they are giving a chance for the crossing over. You just go through that figure also, 5.11. Today, I know that it was little tough, today's topic. You have to read the textbook, go through the figures that is being given in the textbook, read that, and meanwhile, if you are having any kind of doubt, you should contact me, okay? I'm here always, here to help you always. So, try to read it and make sure that you are not having any confusion. So, with that, we can see in another video. Stay safe and study well. Bye.